All right, we are here post game War Eagle, everybody. Game is over with, mercifully ends 42-13. Props to Mike G for a very accurate score call. I mean, I think what you said 42-17, so only 5 points off on the score call there from Mike. Game's done with, and hey, we're on to next week. But hey, if you have not already done so, make sure you clicking like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Make sure you are checking us out. We will be back Wednesday with our pre-game or our preview of next week's game. Um, Always the War Report on Twitter and Instagram. TW Report on TikTok. All right. I'll go ahead and start by saying congratulations to all to Alabama and all of their fans. Whatever. Y'all won. That's as much as you're going to get from me. Played a great game, great team this season. Ball game's over with, but we will get into our grades that we want to pass out here. Does anybody have any comments before we get into the grades that we want to do here for this?
What is
Other than ouch, no.
This is exactly what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I don't think anybody expected anything different.
All right, yeah, but again, I just need to go back to what I said previously because in hindsight, there's so many wisdoms in the words that I'm giving you guys every week, right? Like the only way we're going to win this game will be a shootout. Said it, right? Like we were going to have to go, and we gave up under their season averages, but too close to under, right? Like, I mean, they were averaging 49, we held them to 42. Right, so
we didn't hold them to anything.
Okay. I mean, listen, the defense went out and made some plays here and there. You know, they first turnover. Like, I mean, I can't. I'm telling you, like, I just don't think this had anything to do with really how we played defensively because they were always going to score this much, right? Like, I knew that going in.
Are we saying? Wait, they were going to score this much on this defense? Yes. On our current defense, yeah, okay, but they can be defended in college football in general. They can be defended. Defended them today.
I mean,
I don't disagree with that.
Is it words of wisdom if we all knew that, Mike?
Well, no. Listen. I told you I was the one who verbalized it. Right, I was the one who told you.
I mean, you talk more than everybody.
But if I say water is wet, do I get credit?
No. Y'all gonna give me credit for this one.
I gave you credit for your score.
Ike was saying something about
if I say water is wet, are you gonna give me credit for that?
And I'm like, not 35. We're gonna need more than 35, right? Like if we'd scored 35.
If we had scored 35 in this game, there's no way Bama would subsequently have put up 42 with the performances that
I disagree with that.
I 100% agree with that because time of play got as many at bat. You are crazy. You didn't watch the same game. You didn't watch the same game I did.
But that takes into account that all the other factors stay the same, which they certainly would not. I think they just would have kept.
That's my whole point. You're saying that they're still going to score the same amount of points, and we get drives that result in 35 points. Where? How?
Yeah. I think that their game plan. I think that they clearly took the foot off the gas pedal. They didn't really have to push us in this game, right? But I think that they would have stayed ahead of us on the scoreboard to the tune if we had put up 35 points. They may have even scored a little more.
Yeah, I don't agree with that assessment at all.
We had no chance of this game. There was no chance Auburn was going to win this.
I'm not saying we had a chance to win. Like you're saying that if we had scored 35 with the way that this game went, they would have still scored 42 plus. I disagree with that.
I'm saying that based on what I saw on the field, if we had scored 35, other factors would have been different, and they would have just kept scoring. I don't think it would have a negative on their offense. I think that
I disagree.
We still would have had the same bus. Like I don't know, man.
No.
They had their quarterback went out there and made as many plays as he needed to make. Right? Like, I mean,
I'm not taking anything away from any of that. I fundamentally disagree that they would have still scored 42 points.
Guys,
scored 35.
Guys,
that's not a good take. Like you
guys,
100% right your score. That was a terrible take.
Hey guys, this is a moot point. Who cares? None of it happened.
Point, but that's why I'm like, I don't even understand where you're getting this from. That's like that's just nonsensical. Anyway, let's get
just making sure everybody understands. Again, no matter what, there was no chance Auburn was going to win this. Zero.
Nobody
got it, dude.
with that.
All right. So now that Mike is done being the gloom guy, we'll let you start with your.
I got more in the tank. I
I'm
got more in
positive
the
of
tank.
that.
Don't
I'm
say tank.
positive that
Don't
you
say
have
tank.
more negativity to spew. All right. So let's go with our grades on the special teams. I will start with somebody besides Mike on the special teams, so he can have first dibs on offense, since that's the unit that he seems to love to criticize so much. I will start with Brian on the special teams.
Special teams C. We seem to have a couple of mediocre kickoff returns. I'm not knocking Carl's 56 yarder. I mean, 56 yards aren't getting made every day by college kickers, regardless. So, we just we didn't play particularly well in any phase. But special teams was another some mess ups. I think we had a hold. Didn't we have a hold on the first short return on special teams?
Yes, the first return of the game was we had a holding penalty. Yeah.
And it's not like I feel like that drive set the tone for the rest of the game. I don't buy into that. You can make your own momentum, but there wasn't going to be enough there for us the entire game. But that was still a terrible way to start off the game. C for special teams.
All right, Caesar, what you got?
B minus. Yeah, there were some missteps, but special teams was not going to be what won the game for us. It didn't impact the game really in any significant fashion. Carlson went 2 for 3. Yes, we had a holding. I like Shivers, but I'm really wondering, why is he returning kickoffs for us?
Yeah.
That's enough to drop that score to a C, because why is he back there? Clearly we should have athletes who can run a kickoff back. Shivers runs in a straight line. He's physical, but he runs in a straight line. I would prefer someone who can make cuts and run better than Shivers. But anyway, I would say a B minus.
He's got the speed. That's why he's back there.
Yeah, but speed is not enough for kickoff returns. Like, it's got to
Right.
be
Has a
somebody with a
vision,
little
yeah.
wiggle to him.
You got to be shifty, some type of shiftiness.
Yeah, so I don't know why that's. I agree with you on Shivers being back there. Mike, what you got for special teams?
See, I mean, the inexplicable returns on by Shivers, like, I mean, getting stopped short of the 20, like, I mean, I'm not sure. I think it really hurt the perception of what this offense was trying to accomplish. We were constantly behind the chains, lots of punts. Any game where you're punting a lot, like, again, just to see, it wasn't. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't cost us the game. They didn't have a positive impact on the game. It just kind of existed and did a little bit less than.
Yeah, I'm gonna go C plus on the special teams. Just there was nothing stellar that stood out. We covered fairly well. They didn't do anything super damaging on kick returns, but our like you said, the Shivers returns. I mean, he could have fair caught every one of those, and we would have been in a better position offensively on every single
Right.
drive.
Right.
He did absolutely nothing for us back there. I don't really understand, to Caesar's point, why he was even back there returning kicks. So C plus on the special teams. Let's go over to the defensive side of the football. I will start with you, Caesar. What is your grade for the defense?
I wouldn't expect them a whole lot, but I would give them overall a C minus. I'll just give them a C minus. I think not really a lot to say. That offense from Bama is going to steamroll a lot of defenses, and yeah, kind of hard to add more to that. I mean, we gave up 42 points, so.
All right, Mike, what you got?
I'm gonna go with a C. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, they had their hands full. They were going to have their hands full, and they, I think that, I mean, there were some promising things where we got some stuff. We did force some 3-and-outs, defensively. So it wasn't like, even though it was they scored 42 points, it was like a slow 42, right? Like, it took them all the way through like the second quarter, right? And so I just really think that, if you look at what they were, it was just what we expected. Like, I thought that no matter what, they were not going to have their greatest game versus this offense. I just thought that was a given. So like, so C plus maybe, like, I don't know, they're just in there.
Yeah, I'd have to go with a C as well for the defense. I don't feel as if they were terrible, but I also don't feel like they were great. They were just an average defense today, playing against a well above average offense. And props to Sarkisian. He called a really great game. He had some very well timed throws. dialed up against what we do defensively, and that's what great play callers do is they analyze what the defense is weak at or what their tendencies are, and they call plays against that in those scenarios. It seems like routinely, and the last touchdown to Michi, I called it like in the living room. I was like, I guarantee you this next play is a touchdown, just because it seems as if they score touchdowns right after negative plays. Like their offense, for whatever reason, as soon as they get backed up, they figure out like, okay, this is where we take our shot, and it for some reason works every single time. I have not figured that out. Like, and that's not just against Auburn. That's literally all season me watching Alabama play. They get backed up and then they score a touchdown the very next.
You got to credit Sarkisian for knowing what to
Yeah.
call at different moments too.
He's been an outstanding play caller all season for them.
Yeah.
B. Will, what you got?
Well, defense. Honestly, as impressed as I was with the secondary and the defense last year, everybody behind the defensive line was living off of the good work of the defensive line last year, because everybody has looked subpar. We had a great game against a very bad, inexperienced quarterback at LSU. And outside of that, we look good against bad quarterback play, like, Guantano. But we secondary bust, especially for guys who are very experienced at this point. Spoke Monday, he's a junior. Tut came in as a red shirt sophomore, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he's a junior this year.
He's a junior. Tut regressed. Smoke didn't regress, but mental lapses for the part of the defense that I know is the most thoroughly developed. I think that's what surprises me. The secondary grows at a rate that I love. I love to see Pritchett coming in and contributing, and Simpson coming in and contributing. We're getting guys in here. Noah converted from wide receiver to cornerback and was in the league in a year. We're growing there, and they have not played up to the billing this year. And it's not just because it's against Alabama. Pritchett looked good against Michi. He played a decent game. We had guys play decent games, but outright buzz for experienced players who I know are getting good coaching, that's not acceptable. Linebackers, they're thin. We didn't have our dog in the middle of the linebacker core like we should have had this year, but not being in the right gap, I don't know, man. It's like discipline, and I'm a little disappointed by everybody behind the defensive line. Defensive line doesn't have the guys. They just don't. I knew they didn't have the guys, but man, it's been a little disappointing to see. I say C minus, because they are a buzzsaw. Bama's a buzzsaw, and I don't want to take that away from the defense. They are. They are every bit as good as we thought they were, and we thought they were going to be in this game. But our defense didn't play. They didn't play their best game. They played a better game on defense than they played today.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think the defensive line played fairly well today. They weren't shut down, and they played really well early. But I think the defensive line they have grown to start to get a little more pressure more constantly. I still think we blitz entirely too much, and we'll get into that when we talk about coaching and stuff for this game. But again, defense played okay. Let's go over to the offense, and I will start with the man who has the plan. Mike G, what you got for the offense?
C plus. I mean, we weren't amazing. I mean, we didn't really do much offensively. I mean, we produced, I think, right around 350 yards of offense. They had a tall task today too. So I don't think that you can really grade the offense fairly without taking into account offensive line injuries, right? And then Tank's injury as well too. So all things considered, they put up a fight. I mean, this is what this defense has done this against better teams, right? So they're like, we have just struggled. I think we'll get to it, but most of my ire is actually reserved for the coaching and the game plan than it is for the players, right? Like Bo didn't have his greatest game, but like he didn't really do anything extra special, especially bad. Yeah, I mean, the 2 picks were regrettable, but he threw the ball nearly 40 times. So that's what I would expect from him when he throws the ball 40 times. It was clear that they weren't going to let us run the ball, right? I'm not sure how much at the end what we were seeing with Mark Anthony Richards was real. Like,
yeah,
I think they took a lot of their guys out by that point.
They were still playing starters.
No. They were still playing starters. I just don't know what kind of effort right? Like was going into that. It just seemed like where was this the whole game? Like if this dude is moving the rock like this, why are we just seeing him?
Yeah, and that's some of the comments that I said. I do see the comments here, and we'll get to some of those in a minute.
Right.
In regards
So
to that.
so taking all that into account, I'm thinking about uh, again, it wasn't we didn't lose this game because of Bo Nix, right? He actually threw some very crisp passes to start the game, which I would have just liked to see more of it, where he was hitting receivers in the hands. Um, Seth dropped a for sure touchdown. Like Bo is iffy with that throw, so when he does make it, you have to catch it. You have to help. You have to help a quarterback like Bo Nix out, and you cannot drop those passes. He needs that for his psyche so bad, right? Like we needed that. So like inexcusable by Seth Williams. I think it was Cedric Jackson that had another clear drop. Uh,
Yeah.
Schwartz had a couple. Like I mean, we didn't do a whole. I mean, Pegues I think caught every pass that was thrown at him. Shaker had some nice catches. I mean, listen, man, Bo got the ball ahead of some people. I mean, he still had some behind throws, but for the most part, I can't really look at his performance and say this he tanked it. We could have won if it was not for him. I don't think the plan he was given was very good today. That's what I saw. Right? I don't think they schemed. I don't think they schemed well enough for what our shortcomings were supposed to be, knowing going into this game, right? With no tank and a patchwork offensive line. So, listen, I'm just not down on Bo today, right? Like I thought that this was going to be the outcome no matter what we did. So I'm not really down on Bo, right? Because nothing else stood out while he stayed the same for me to even say, okay, Bo, is at fault here, or he should have made this pass or that pass. Like none of that would have mattered today. The way everybody else around him played, truly, like I really feel like they could have his stat line would have been a lot better if three of those drops get caught, right? And we maybe don't still win this game, but they get close to 30 points with a few more catches. I mean, I don't know how true that is. Maybe in the mid-20s, but this game maybe looks a little differently.
Yeah, I think we probably would have been in the mid 20s had
20,
we
24,
yeah.
27.
But yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go C plus as well for the offensive production today. It wasn't, it was just. I mean, we played as mid a game as you could have possibly played today. Like nothing stood out and was like, wow, that was great. Nothing stood out like, wow, that was terrible. It was just we were out there, like we were on the field,
right.
and it was a blowout for all intents and purposes, but it still felt like one of those blowouts where, man, we had our opportunities to make this look respectable and we just blew it. And so that's why I'm gonna go C plus for the offensive production. And again, we'll get to what I go have for the coaching as to why my scores have been what they were for that. B Will, what you got?
Uh, phew. I'm gonna say C plus, but I'm gonna say C plus because I'm trying to think of these grades in terms of how well could you do. Like if the best grade you could get on a test is 100 out of 100, then it's got to be based on what that test is and what I taught you coming into this test. So if I didn't teach you enough stuff, I'm not gonna be mad if you get a 70 on the test and you didn't get a 95 or whatever. And what I mean by that is we don't have the guys. We don't have the offensive line talent and the defensive line talent. We are pretty talented everywhere else except for wide receiver. But aside from that, offensive line, we get good talent and we have enough of it, except now it is injured. So we really had C talent on the offensive line today. So it's no surprise that we couldn't run the ball consistently. We have B talent at the wide receiver position, but Seth does this thing where if a team keys in on him and they keep him from getting into the game, he's kind of mentally out of the game for the rest of the game. He does that last year against Florida, definitely against Georgia, South Carolina, and now against Alabama. And I have to think back to some of his specific performances last year, but he is a vicious competitor as long as he knows he's going to be involved. And when he's not, he's disengaged and he sulks and he pouts on the field, like visibly. If the route was run, he's calling for a flag. Every replay, ain't no flag, man. Look, you didn't get open. Just get back to the line. That's a bad sign for we're never going to be able to take that next step as a team and supposedly run an offensive coach having a productive offense. We're never going to be that in this league without either an all-world quarterback and running game combination or skill position players who are actually going to be productive no matter what's going on in the game. And I'm a little disappointed. That's why I was saying C plus, because Seth has been this guy for a long time. And we were all saying, we hope they get a rhythm. We hope they get a run game going, because unfortunately, a couple of the pieces on our offense don't work unless you get them going early. And you got to like keep cranking the thing the whole game, or they just going to shut down on you. And that's a poor sign of coaching to me. So I guess we'll save a little bit of that. But for what this offense could do against this Alabama defense, they did some of it. And they didn't do a terrible job of what they could do. And the other fine points they missed, and that was the difference in the game. Like Mike said, they didn't look like, throwing Jeremy Johnson picks out there. That didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? We didn't snap the ball over the quarterback's head. He running back got to cover it, 20-yard loss. That would have been awful. That would have been an F, but it was whatever. C plus.
All right, Caesar, what you got?
I'm gonna give them. I mean, a C plus is fair. I just say C, just because Bama, give them credit. They did what they had to do. One of the things you need to beat a good Bama team is be able to do both run the football and throw the football. And they was determined that what we were not going to let Auburn do was run the football. I think Auburn got 120 some yards on the ground total for the game or something like that. So it put the pressure on Bo Nix to throw almost 40 times, which personally, if you tell me going into a game, Bo's going to throw it almost 40 times, that's probably a loss for us. And so I think given that we had guys injured up front on the O-line, I think that, there was a lot of things I saw from Bo that I liked. I think what we saw as the game went on for Bo, once the game got out of reach, Bo beginning to feel a lot of the pressure of trying to make something happen.
Yeah,
and I think that has been absent from the Ole Miss and LSU game. When we were ahead of schedule, we were up on them, or we were in the game, there was less pressure on Bo to try to do something. Him almost falling down, throwing the ball up in the air, like that's him pressing. And so once that began to happen, Bo began to start doing he began to revert back to some of those bad habits that have been gradually coached out of him. Yeah. And I think that's just credit to what Bama did. I just think Auburn, the players, played very well. But to Mike's point, when Bo does make a good throw, you got to come down with it.
Right.
And so I think that really, things like that, I felt like that's what knocks their grade down a little bit, because when it was time to make a play and it was there, we didn't show up when we needed to. So
not just a good throw, too. Perfect throws.
Right.
Like that throw to Seth was perfect.
Right.
Like, I mean, we can't say that, with any regularity with his passes, but that throw was perfect. No matter who, if I'm out there throwing it, it shouldn't matter. You should catch that every time. That's like practice, right? Well, the practice live he missed will walk into the end zone after.
All right, so let's get down to the brass tacks of it, because this is where the brunt of my issues with this game are going to come, and that is with coaching. I'm going to start this off and just say straight up that I'm going to give a D plus to the coaching for this game. I don't feel as if our strategy coming in on offense was the right one, knowing that we had deficiencies in our offensive line. Our starting running back was down. Clearly, DJ Williams was either I think I saw the play where he got hurt fully.
Yeah, I saw it.
He came into the game injured already. So if you don't have Tank, if you expect Shivers to be your between the tackles guy against Bama, I don't know why that's a sound strategy. Mark Anthony Richards clearly was healthy enough to be toting the rock more than he did, but you didn't have him factored into the game plan. I don't fully understand what the plan was offensively. Like, I just don't know why we came in with a game plan that said, we don't have all our pieces, let's do the same thing anyway. That makes no sense to me, right? So, like, we can begin there. Then we go over to the defensive side of the football, which I don't think necessarily that our game plan was bad on defense. I just don't. I hate the propensity that Kevin Steele has sometimes to blitz so much. I just think in a game where you know the other team is going to score a lot, right? You just don't have to take as many chances as he did in this game. Just let the play develop in front of you and keep everything in front of you. But like taking a ton of chances is betting on your guys. I get that. I just don't know that that's a great strategy. Then I fundamentally don't understand why the last drive even happened. We're down 42-13, and they're still trying to run plays as if they're trying to score points. Why? What's the point?
Hey man, they had bet on Auburn to cover the spread. Hey, the touchdown would have made it what 22? That's what it was. Yeah.
That makes it makes absolutely no sense though. Like it just doesn't make sense to do that. Like the intentional grounding penalty was bogus. Like I don't think that's a great penalty.
I've never seen that for a shot down the
why
field.
take the timeout and avoid the 10-second runoff? That's not going to help. Like it is at that point. It's like this is Gus being stubborn again for like you're going to get someone hurt. Like why do you want your players to be hurt? There are 2 games. Like I get it. Normally this is the last game of your regular season. We still have 2 games left. There's no purpose whatsoever in that. And so I have to grade the coaching poorly because I don't feel like you prepared these kids to come out here and win a football game. You might have gone and gave them all the rah-rah speeches and got them hyped up emotionally, but the X's and O's are what's going to matter in this. Execution is what matters against a team that's superior to you. Effort is going to be there because those kids want to play football, but you have to put them in the position to win, knowing who your personnel are and putting those guys in position to be their best, not just deciding we're going to call whatever, right? I just don't, I didn't like it. I didn't like most of our game plan throughout the entirety of the game. B. Will, I'll go to you next.
I disagree a little bit because I don't know what you expect them to do when we have a good offensive line and a great running back. That good offensive line turns into a mediocre offensive line with injuries, and that great running back is now probably shouldn't even be on the field because of his injuries. Now, the thing that made you go is gone. What do you expect him to do? All right, well, we have to turn into a precision passing team in the next week. Y'all, that ain't what y'all are. Y'all haven't been that the whole season.
I'm not expecting precision passing, but I am expecting a game plan that puts guys like I don't think the game plan was sound. I just don't think it was.
I guess I just don't expect when you haven't been repping for a certain game, a certain style of offense. If you haven't been repping short slants and a more complex route tree or more precision, more tight end involvement passing game, if you haven't been repping that the entire season.
But isn't that what we were promised that they were repping to start this season, was a more precision passing game that involved the tight end more often? Like, isn't that the thing that we've been told since the preseason that they were going to be doing?
For the record,
no other game you break that out. Why not this one?
Yeah, for the record, those plays, even if they're not being actively run all season, are installed into some form of the game plan that is practiced. So I'll get to my grades, but I just want to point that out there. Like, it doesn't matter if we run it during the game; they should be practicing that stuff all season in case you have injuries or a team makes you one dimensional. That's why I'm with Ike. Like, what was the game plan? But anyway, you can finish.
Okay, so this is what I mean. I'll get to my point about what the game plan is. If you come into this season the same way I think they came into last season, which was when they call those games 50-50 for Bo to just throw, like we came out throwing on first downs last year, like at Oregon. Like they've never played a game to protect Bo Nix and bring him along. That let me know at the time, that made me think they believe in this kid, and we've got a guy who can sling it all over the yard, complemented with a run game. It took a whole season and about 4 games for us to realize, nope. Well, for them to realize that's not what we got. We have a okay quarterback who can be good in some instances. Let's protect him. That decision, that was a concession. When we saw them leaning heavy into the run game to that extent with the throws that they allowed Bo to have, that was a concession that we don't have the quarterback to run the offense we thought we were going to run. So I didn't expect them. They can work on it. I mean, hey, I've heard that John Franklin was making people look stupid in practice. But obviously, they didn't trust him to do it on the field in the game time. And when he had his shot against Vanderbilt that year, Vanderbilt made him look bad that year. Practice, coaches have to know, listen, all right, you're not that guy. You're practicing, we appreciate it, but you're not that guy. I think they felt that way about Gatewood. I've seen Gatewood in about 3 games now for Kentucky, and honestly, I'm like, you know what? They might have had a point. His ceiling isn't higher than Bo Nix's ceiling. But I don't think that you have to go out for 1 week. Well, the one thing we got that's working isn't working. What are we going to do? We're going to do something we can't do. No, we can't do it. We can't do that. The thing that we were good at was not available to us this week. And this being the result is not at all a surprise. I don't expect coaches to come up with nothing because this is your guy. Bo Nix is your guy. Seth is your number 1 wide receiver. Schwartz is your number 2. Your tight end is honestly your most reliable catch, and tight end is Shanker. Is that the personnel that you're going to run that next level Deshaun at Clemson passing game with? No. So I don't expect them to come up with that in a week. And it sounds like y'all expect them to come up with more of it in a week.
Dude. I have to disagree with that because so you said yourself, Seth is our number 1 receiver. How many targets did he have this game? Like the early swing pass was a play for him. That's not Seth's game. Why are you running a swing pass to Seth? Like, that's not his game.
Because they wouldn't expect it if it's not his game, right?
But listen, what I'm saying is your personnel is who they are. You know Seth is a 50-50 ball guy, right? If it is first down and 10 inside the 15 early in the game, you want to run a swing pass to Seth Williams? No. You want to get something on the outside back shoulder throw to pick up 4 or 5 quick yards. Why not do that? Because that's the kind of guy Seth is. If you want to put the guy who does a thing in the optimal position to do a thing he's good at.
And we've seen Nix make that throw
consistently. That's one of the better throws that he makes. So why not early in the game get that throw for Bo? Okay, so if you're going to run a swing pass, you know they're expecting that to Schwartz, right? So you don't do that early in the game. But what they don't expect is Shanker doing a quick leak out, because you're going to run, a rollout to the right and have Shanker leak out, right? They're not expecting that early in the game. Why not show that earlier in the game? Why not get Sean Shivers in space rather than running in between the tackles so much? Why not have Mark Anthony Richards run the ball between the tackles? Because, again, he's clearly healthy enough to do that. I don't understand the philosophy we came into the game with. Understand what the execution was, which is why the offense doesn't get a great grade. The coaching gets a worse grade because philosophically, I don't understand what you're doing. It doesn't make sense for the personnel that you have. Those two things aren't jiving to me because you have personnel that can do things, put them in position to do those things and make Bama stop you. Not, we know that they're okay. We knew what Bama was going to do. We had to stop it though. You make them stop your guys from doing the thing they're best at. And they did not do that. I don't understand it. Anyway, continue. If you got more, go ahead. You didn't actually give a grade yet, but what's your grade for the coaching?
Coaching. C minus.
C minus for the
I
coaching.
don't expect them to make $1 out of 15 cents, especially not at this point in the season.
I expect them to make 50 cents out of 50 cents, though. Is what I'm saying. They got 50 cents. I believe we have 50 cents worth of. Yes, and I don't think that we were able to produce 50 cents worth with our 50 cents.
I will. Okay, so if I'm gonna, the only flip side to what you're saying is that why do you have Seth coming out here doing things that aren't his best thing? I think the better question is why don't we have skill position guys who are good at more than one thing?
I'm not gonna disagree with that assessment. I actually do think that we have those guys. That actually goes back to me as a talent evaluation thing because I think I've seen enough tape on kids in high school to know that they have the physical giftings, but no one's developing those things to a place where they can learn how to do more than that. Seth has been in this offense, or he's been at this school for 3 years now, and he's still a 50-50 ball guy. That's not Seth Williams' fault fundamentally. He's physically gifted to do a thing. You have to teach him how to do. They talked about this in commentating about how Devontae Smith got with a guy to figure out how to improve his short burst because he had the top end speed. But in order to be a next level receiver, he needed to figure out how to be better early in his route so that he could use his top end speed. When have you heard of Seth Williams doing that in the 3 years he's been at Auburn to say, I know I can be a jump ball guy, but I need to figure out how to win the short routes intermediately. Let me go work on that. He has seen zero improvement from the time he got to campus to now in his third season in anything that resembles more than a guy who can be a jump ball guy. You know why? Because nobody's asking him to improve in those ways. Either
I
Seth Williams
agree.
has to have the onus on himself to say, I'm going to do that. But why would he do that? The offense isn't catered to be able to allow him to, because the offensive coaches aren't saying, you know what, Seth, you've got great hands and you have a big body. What we want to do is make you into this type of receiver that complements your ability to do those 50-50 jump balls. We need to improve your top end speed, or we need to improve your short end burst so that you can get open early in routes and you can win those physical matchups. Why is nobody on our coaching staff doing that? Cody Burns is the guy who's supposed to be responsible for doing that. Answered, question asked, question answered.
I am
Coaching.
not disagreeing with you. I'm not and that's why we can go back into this in the offseason. But Mike makes this point all the time about getting guys in and developing them. We don't develop guys, which goes back to my point every time Mike brings that up, which is we have to get guys in here who are ready-made star players. They already have these skills. They already have that talent, whether it's through their family being a coach or they do some off-season training. If they need to be developed here on offense, it is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So, but grade overall, I still say C plus.
C plus? You had C minus.
Yeah, C minus.
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't remember what I said. That's all. C minus.
All right, Caesar, go for it.
Whoa.
That plus made that big a difference, y'all. Y'all like, where?
Yes, it did. Actually, that's a huge difference for me. I'm gonna put some of these. You can keep going. I'm gonna put some of these comments up here as you talk.
Hey, that's it. Every year. That's truth. Every year.
Smith, Harrison, wasn't no.
I agree.
My grade is a D plus. My grade is a D plus. Again, someone answer me. Why in the world did they put Worm back in kick return? I just want to know that. You put someone back there, you probably have a better setup on offense the first two drives. I mean, that's one thing. I think that offensively, to your point, Ike, there are things that this team has done well throughout the year that I didn't see us do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just felt like we didn't see any of that. I felt like they came in with the idea of, okay, we know Bama's not going to allow us to really run the ball, so we're just going to stick with this short game, knowing good and well Bama is squatting on everything we do in the short game. And so there are things that we could have done just to keep them honest. Again, like the back shoulder throw, the other things that we've done that will help keep Alabama balanced on defense. And Bama could just squat on everything that we did. And again, when we did take the top off on Bama, the throw was there. We just didn't execute and catch it. So to me, that tells me Bama is squatting on everything that we do, knowing that that's what we tend to do well when we are moving the ball. And I just feel like there are things that we have done throughout the year that extends beyond the short game. Didn't see any of that. And to me, that's just frustrating. Again, on defense, it's very rare. Like my only knock, to your point again, Ike, my only knock against Kevin Steele is sometimes we blitz unnecessarily. I have not seen a team all year. I rarely ever see this. Bama just giving up sacks. Bama's O-line just getting blown off. Usually Mac Jones, like his jersey is clean at the end of the game. Like he's upright. He's getting the ball out. Like Sark draws up plays for him to get the ball out of his hands, which is what we should be doing with our quarterback. But so if that's the case, you want to keep everything in front of you, not sending guys from out of the secondary and the linebacking core. That's less people to defend the passing game, knowing good and well those athletes, once they get in space with the ball, they're off to the races. And so I just felt like those are one of the things about Kevin Steele that frustrates me. We should be keeping everything in front of us. If they nickel and dime us to death, so be it. What you will not do is get guys in open space and then just get off to the races. Like we again, I feel like from the defensive plan to the offense, the defense did a good job in certain cases getting off the field, but because we got the ball and we just didn't. The plan was just, and then when we got penalties, I could tell when Gus gave up. I can tell when Chad gave up on the drive. Like to me, I'm thinking, guys, this is the Iron Bowl. It's not like if we lose this game, we're out of playoff contention. We're already out of playoff contention. Play like you have nothing to like. Play with a backbone. You know what I mean? If it doesn't work, it don't work. What I don't want to play is timid and then get the doors blown off. Like that pisses me off.
Right.
So to me, I just give him a D+ because of that.
Yep. Mike, what you got?
So I'm going with a straight up F. I strongly disagree with a lot of Brian's assertions about preparation. Like, just here's my deal. You get an F for preparation. We look unprepared. You get an F for game plan because we don't know what the hell it was, right? You get an F for adjustments because nothing that we saw in the game plan accounted for what we even as fans knew they were going to try to do. Like, but listen, we're on record. That's a great thing about doing this thing on tape, baby. We got the receipts, right? And the receipts say that we all knew that they were going to try to shut down our run game and force Bo into it. Now, I don't know if I'm buying Brian the whole, well, you don't got the guys for this and that. Well, if we don't got the guys, they're still on coaching anyway. It's still their fault.
I agree, but that has nothing to do with coaching in this game.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Job overall, but
yeah. So then what is the plan though? The plan is we don't have the guys, so let's go out there and do the thing that they know we're going to do, so they can stop us.
Hey, Mike, can I say this real quick? I hate to cut you off. You got to remember, B, we also had an extra week due to COVID to prepare for this Bama team. That's what you march out there?
Well, we get 2 weeks for Bama anyway because we always play the cupcake team. So it's about the same time. It's not that much different.
My point is you had time to game plan, and this is what you march out there.
Right. But what I'm saying is it's just not about what we marched out there. It's that we went out there and did exactly what we knew Bama was going to try to stop. I didn't understand that. I didn't understand what we were watching. And then on some, to Caesar's point, on some drives, you could tell when they gave up on a drive. Right? Really, I mean, some curious calls on 2nd and 18, this weak draw up the middle, and they've been stopping our run. Like, it was almost like they weren't scared of Bo throwing at all. Right? And I just thought that the game plan had to install something to account for that. We knew that. Tank has been the biggest bright spot on our offense, but, it was well documented that he was coming in hobbled. Right? You look at the tape, and you're not really scared of anything else you see in Auburn's backfield. So then you're looking at the tape of Bo, and you're like, is this not got a guy that's going to outduel Mac Jones? He threw 5 touchdowns today, right? Like, so
Bo.
I just think, and I'm just not gonna lay anything at Bo's feet. I'm just saying, coaching is an F for me because this was a whole ass mess, right? Like, I would Isaac, right? I just think, I'm not sure. Like, it's one thing to say that you don't have the horses, right, to execute something, but if we don't have people to execute just a change in game plan from week to week, right? Like, then we're not a good team. That's my point. And going back to our conversation about whether
you're muted, bro.
Going back to our conversation about whether we're a good team or a great team or an average team. I just think as a good team, you should be able to reasonably adjust your game plan to things that you haven't been doing regularly all year, knowing that the other team is going to try to stop what you do best, right? And even if they started that way, I didn't really see an adjustment in the game plan. It was just like, okay, the run's not working, so let's throw with Bo Nix. There was nothing in between. There was no intermediates, and even in spite of that, Bo still found a way to make some plays. I didn't think the game plan set him up for success today, which is why in large part I'm giving him a pass on what I saw. The game plan was bad. The game plan gave us, based on how they played, to you guys' point, it didn't really feel that way to me, but I could see your perspective that it felt like it was a winnable game going into at the end of the second half, like, man, like we could be in this, right? Well, any chance we had was killed by the fact that there was no game plan. It wasn't apparent to me what it was. What I'm drawing here for Isaac, it wasn't apparent to him what it was. I don't know if anyone else. It just sounds like we marched out there and tried to do what we knew we weren't going to be able to do as effectively against a much better team. That's crazy, right? And
yeah, I expected to see, Gus Malzahn pull out all the stops. I expected to see a couple of gadgets, something that indicated I'm going to catch them slipping today, and I just didn't see that.
Well, he did, but it was east and west plays. Like he was running a long developing reverse. So I was like, that's what he came up with. Like I was like, come on, bro, we gotta go. We gotta go downfield.
So this is where I wonder how much Gus Malzahn stepped in on this game plan, because like it just I'm like, is this Chad Morris? Is this what he decided to do in his first Iron Bowl? Is go out here and just run everything that has absolutely no chance of success against the defense? Like it's almost as if he was like, the defense is going to do this and we're going to try to challenge them.
Right.
Like, no, sir, that's not how you attack a defense. It's not challenge them at their strength and try to, like, you're going to break their will.
Right. Yeah, I didn't understand it. It looked very disjointed.
Let me get some of these comments in here from earlier. Bama hopefully did us a favor to help us get rid of Gus.
I'm not sure they did. I'm not sure they accomplished that.
We were way too under. If this had been, and if we had an actual chance in this game and the score remained what it was today, maybe. But
we can't even get 6-1 and blowing people out by 17 to 24 points a game and come in here and lose like this. Maybe
we would have needed to limp into Brian Denny, having lost to Tennessee and LSU. It should have had to be a slow build to this beat down to push Gus out. But I think Gus is okay.
Let's see what Bo Nix just lost his confidence after Seth dropped that pass. I don't know that he lost confidence after that throw. Maybe he lost confidence in Seth. Yeah, but I think Bo actually continued.
He still came out and played
fairly well.
He was like, "Well, fighting me then."
Yeah, he was fighting all the way to the end.
Listen, I think he was a little deflated after that drop because of how much he struggles to connect on that pass. Like when he does it, you got to catch it. So I'm not sure he lost confidence, but I would say it was probably like a moment for Bo, right? Like,
right.
We're trying to stage a comeback. I make a perfect pass. You got to help me out, bro, and catch that one. That's not like some crazy. That's not like Bo put it on the money, but it was still a tough catch. No, like it's one of the easiest catches you're gonna get in a game, right? Like, so that just kind of highlights how egregious that drop was.
It's like Seth. You remember when you was pissed at Bo in South Carolina?
Can we fire Cody Burns already? Listen,
the defense probably felt about Bo all last year.
Listen, I hate to break it to Gabe, but I think Cody got an extension.
He did. He just got one. But it don't listen, man. The problem is nobody is gonna get rid of Cody Burns to bring in who can we get? That's gonna be a better wide receiver.
Listen, if he means Chad Ochocinco Johnson about learning how to run routes better, that's definitely a start. So this is a sincere hope of mine. It's never gonna happen. Right? Like, this literally is not going to happen. That Larry Fitzgerald retires at the end of this season and somehow they give him enough money to want to come coach wide receivers, because Larry Fitzgerald is one of the most complete wide receivers that's ever been in the NFL. He blocks well, he runs his routes well, he knows how to secure catches, he does everything well. That's the kind of guy you want teaching kids how to play with the wide receiver position. So it's never going to happen, but like he literally would be like an all-star hire at a wide receiver coach. So whatever.
He go back to Pitt though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he has no ties to Auburn. There's literally no reason for him to come and do that. I'm just saying, like, that's the kind of guy that you want to coach the guys at wide receiver.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. To Gabe's point, like Cody's just not it. Right. Like it's clear that we are underdeveloped at the wide receiver position. So agree 100%. Yeah.
For y'all though, okay. So everybody came in somewhere between 99 and 02, right? All four of us.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Who is the best wide receiver we have had at Auburn since 1999 to now?
From 99 to now, best wide receiver?
Yes.
Oh man, I could think of a few that I really like.
The best.
Darvin Adams probably.
I would probably say by the numbers it's Darvin Adams.
No. Ability. Talent.
He could do it all.
Courtney Taylor.
I don't know if he was better than Ben Obama. I'm not sure he was better than Ben. Courtney was kind of slow. He ran decent routes. Ben was fast.
The hands and the body control. Anyway, I brought
Courtney
that
Taylor
up.
had great hands. I'm not gonna debate that. I just now raw ability, whether we saw it consistently on the field, the answer is Sammy Coates. Sammy Coates was an actual physical beast.
Beast. Yeah.
Terrible hands. Oh,
he had inconsistent hands because he came down
ability.
with the most ridiculous catches ever, and then he would drop some of the easiest ones. Like
what y'all thought about Duke Williams?
Duke Williams was physically
wide receiver.
He was too slow.
If he was too slow. Another 2 tenths on the 40, that man would have been elite. The body, he had the body control in the hands too. He had both. But I bring that up to say,
good possession receiver.
Who is it that was really good for us, that is tied to us, that's no longer in the league, but did it on a professional level? Like Cadillac is that guy right now for the running backs. And I still don't know if he's a better coach than the running backs coach that we got rid of, because everybody loved that guy. But the running backs are looking pretty good.
I ain't like him.
But Cadillac is that guy right now. Who is it that we can say, listen, you did it. We know that you were proficient. You were productive on the NFL level. You can teach these guys something, because every last one of Alabama's wide receivers look like pro prospects. Every last one. The way they run routes, the way they block, the way they catch the ball, they look complete. I don't think it's impossible to find a guy to come in and say, hey, this is what we need to improve in all these areas. Show us how to do it. Once you get that guy, somebody that you can say to recruits, listen, this dude has been in the NFL. He's going to show you all that stuff, and you'll be out of here second round at the latest, because he's done it.
Okay.
He's seen it. He knows what it looks like. Who can we get?
I thought, honestly, I thought that Ben O would be I think he would be a decent teacher, right? I mean, he was part of an undefeated team. I feel, I mean, we had some sneaker good wide receivers. Anthony Dix, Roma, right? Like, I mean,
we had an embarrassment years. We had an embarrassment of good receivers.
In 2010, Emory Blake was very underrated receiver. I mean, he wasn't a burner, but he caught a lot of really good balls for us. Ricardo Luis had the raw talent. He just, sometimes he had to drop.
I don't like the way he exited the program and started trashing us after
he got
wrong, but I just don't like. I don't know.
He wasn't lying.
He wasn't wrong.
He wasn't
How Gus Malzahn could not be the head coach and Ricardo Lewis still come back and be a wide receiver coach for him.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Yeah, I agree.
Stuff on here. Ben Obama, somebody said that. Duke Williams, Slayton, he's in the league right now, but definitely
Slayton.
Darius Slayton
one in the last 20.
Somebody said Sammy Coates, and then we got a Frank Sanders mentioned on here. Frank Sanders
not
in that time frame that we were talking about, but he's definitely a great wide receiver in Auburn history. But see, here's the thing: like, being a good receiver doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a great coach, right? So you have to be a technician to really help people. Like, it's like Sammy Coates is one of those guys. He was just physically dominant. That doesn't mean he had all the technical skills to be able to teach somebody.
Right.
Okay, like, this is how I became 6'4" and 230. Like, I don't like. What are you going to teach him? Like, you can't teach people physical freak. You can only show them the technical side, which I don't know. If Sammy Coates had gotten that technical stuff at Auburn, he would have been a dominant receiver at the next level.
I got to say this too, though. We also need a system that actually prioritizes and showcases receivers as well too, which we haven't generally had. So, like, I've been saying this for years. If you're a top end receiver, I don't know why you come to Auburn, really.
Right.
Like, seeing what
here's my thing. I honestly believe we have the wide receiver talent on our team right now. I just think,
we don't get the best wide receiver talent, right? Like,
no, we don't. We
don't.
I think picking have the ability.
Like these guys that we're in the battle for, it comes down to us in another school. They're always picking another school, right? Like, I was shocked when we got Nate Craig Myers. I still think he is one of the
This
most.
Is actually a really good question by Mike Higgs. But go ahead.
We should bring him. Yeah, honestly, like, is there somebody that he works with? Because this receiver problem is astounding for a school that, like us, who is perennially in the top 15 of the recruiting rankings. You think that we don't like, it seems like when we have a guy in Seth Williams mold, he's always the unheralded guy. He's never the heralded guy.
We don't get the heralded guy because we can't pay enough. All right, and we're getting outbid everywhere. That's the problem. We're getting outbid everywhere. Ever since Clemson got on this run, us in Clemson, forget the man, they going to Clemson. Justin Ross was 45 minutes down the street.
Does anybody remember? We were in the running for Sammy Watkins. Chose Clemson. We were in the running. It came out of us in Clemson, and Sammy chose Clemson. Right?
And they weren't even good then.
Say what?
Clemson wasn't even they weren't like bulldozing. They weren't the program they are now.
He had a great career.
Worked out for him.
Man, they
know.
stay cleaning up. They stay.
We were in the running for Julio Jones. He went to Bama. And it's hard to argue with these guys' decisions. I was commenting to somebody during the game about how many receivers Alabama has in the league right now.
Oh no, it's stupid right now.
Yeah, they are really producing them. And again, it's Devontae Smith and these other guys. Ruggs is in the league. Amari Cooper.
Right, going to be in the league next year.
Yeah. Calvin Ridley. Yeah, I just so many of them. I'm just like, wow, we are putting a receiver every third year into the league. It feels like so.
When they get there,
yeah, you're going to need. The football in the SEC is changing, right? When we were in school, it was a lot of slow run game type stuff. It was real smash mouth football, right? And then Saban hired Lane Kiffin and changed the game forever, right?
Gus Malzahn actually changed the SEC.
Okay, fair enough. That's fair enough because he actually brought his Wildcat to Arkansas before he even got when he had Derek McFadden and Felix Jones, and that running back tandem was probably the nastiest in SEC history, right? So McFadden ran for 2,000 yards that season.
The spread concepts that Gus Malzahn introduced to the SEC changed because that neutralized Bama's ability to play football.
There was no that and Urban Meyer as well. I think we got to give Urban Meyer a little bit of credit for that as well.
Fair enough. I'm just saying, you cannot not have dominant receivers in this era of the SEC, right? You need a dominant receiver, and you need some good possession guys, some good slot guys. You need a solid wide receiving core because there's the primarily we run more than we pass. Championship teams are done in our conference. You can be good at the run, but you're not going to be a primary run team. Name one that was just a smash mouth team that's won the SEC in the last 10 years.
Us.
They all have excellent quarterbacks, and they all threw the ball, right? Us
in 2013. We were primarily a run team. It was an unstoppable.
Okay, that's fair. That was very unconventional. Both those 2010 and 2013 were very unconventional teams. But we still had better quarterback play. And listen, man, Cam, I thought that Darvin Adams and Terrell Zachary, there were two. Terrell Zachary was underappreciated and underrated, man. He made so many big catches for us. Right? In that Iron Bowl, against Clemson at the beginning of the season when Cam double clutched and it just dropped one in on him and then he tiptoed the sideline. But we had some really underrated talent come through, and at some point that talent just stopped developing. And then we were getting top tier guys like Ricardo Luis, but they weren't reaching their potential. I do put a lot of their drop issues on coaching, right? I know some guys will be head cases, but these were superb talents. I was glad that Ike made the point about Sammy Coates being the most physical beast that we've had at wide receiver. I can't think of anybody that was just as tall and strong and fast as Sammy was. So he never got over his drop issues, which is why he's not in the league right now.
Right.
But he was catching some bombs in Pittsburgh, right? He had the speed. They believed that he had the speed, right? And the other physical attributes. So we've got to solve this issue. I just really going into this game seems like your talent stopped after Cody Burns. Yeah, I want to do. And listen, I hate that we have to talk so much crap about Cody because he's an Auburn guy through and through.
Yeah.
Right? He's a great guy, but man, can we just give him an administrative role or something? Does the trash need emptying? Get Gus coffee.
Yes, I think that they have to find something else for him to do besides wide receiver.
He's still a great recruiter.
I think he's a good recruiter.
Yeah,
I
he is.
think the talent that he brings in. So to your point, B Will, when we're talking about can we outbid guys, he gets the best guys available for the purse that we're willing to give, right? You have to be able to take those guys and develop them. That's
Right.
where it stops. That's basically where it stops for our
That's-
offensive staff, is that we can bring in decent talent across the board. I don't think the issue at Auburn is talent. To me, we have talented guys. We haven't been developing that talent to play above their star rating. What they're rated at, there's tons of people in the NFL right now that were D2 kids, that were 1 and 2, 3-star kids coming out of high school that are making millions of dollars as predominant NFL stars. Why? Because their star rating doesn't determine how hard they're going to work, how much they're going to develop while they're in that next intermediate phase in college. All of that stuff is dependent upon who's tutoring that guy when they get in there and the drive
Right.
that kid has automatically. Being able to
And them
recognize
putting them in
that,
good positions.
being able to recognize that and then turn around and say, you know what, I can make something out of that kid. We
So
don't have the staff that does that.
I think that's why you see a lot of these receivers go on to the league because they possess all the potential and then do better than they did in college, like Darius Slayton, right? You put them in a system where people know what they're doing and they know how to coach them, and then all of a sudden this guy is 1/2 receiver on his team. Now he was a good receiver for us, but he was never great because he was not greatness under our staff. I'm just saying the examples are there of people getting talent after us and doing something with it at the next level. So it's not that so I agree with Ike. Like, it's not that we don't have talent. We don't know what to do with the talent once we get there. So, maybe put Cody in another role, let him keep recruiting, and then, have a role for him. I mean, he's still an Auburn guy. I think he's still a good guy to have around the program in some ways. Just not coaching and developing, because we've just seen no development there at all. I mean, he was not really a great quarterback either. So I don't know what would make him a great.
So that's the thing,
right.
is like I know. So I understand the reason why Cody Burns is here, or why he came here initially, because what the offense required of wide receivers was to be a guy who was unselfish, come out here and block well in the run game.
He did that.
When you get your opportunities, catch the ball because it's going to be open because we run so well. That was fine 5-6 years ago. Right?
Yeah, which is exactly what he did in that national championship game.
Correct, because he
blocked and caught a touchdown pass.
He was the kind of receiver that could be good in a Gus Malzahn system, so he knows how to coach guys to be that guy. We're not in that space anymore offensively in the conference, not just at Auburn, but in the conference as a whole. We're not in the space where you can just be Shedrick Jackson up and down your roster. Like, you just can't be that guy. And that's basically what Cody Burns produces, is a bunch of Shedrick Jacksons.
That's fair. What was the other guy that kind of came out of nowhere that caught a few passes in the other game? I always forget his name.
Which game?
I think it was against Tennessee. We had
Kobe. It was Kobe Hudson.
No,
Kobe Hudson caught a pass today.
Yeah, he caught one today. He caught one in Tennessee as well.
No, there was another guy. Did he get hurt?
I think my number 80.
Capers?
Yeah,
Capers. Yeah, right. Like, it's funny. We saw flashes, earlier this season. We were like, wait, could he be the next thing that kind of takes our passing game to the next level? So sad our two biggest rivals, and we have one touchdown.
Yes.
So again, is what I was saying during the game. I was like, this smells of Georgia in terms of offensive production. And we actually did better, but in terms of actual point score, we didn't do much better.
No, listen, we played so much better in this game than we did in the Georgia game. Like, let's just be clear about that.
Right.
We played a much better game this game against Georgia, but I think the coaching was exactly the same in both games.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Poor.
Right.
So, yeah, I would say that that's two really bad showings, right? If you combine that, so what did we lose by today?
29.
29, right? And then we lost to what, 29-6?
27-6.
Right. So that's what, like 52 points between our last two rivals, right? Like, in terms of, like,
Cool 50.
Yeah, right. So those are beatdowns. Let's be real.
Wait now, by beating LSU by 45. So between our three biggest rivals, we were -5.
And,
All
and that's why Gus gets another year. For those
Exactly.
who
I see you're a numbers guy. All right, yeah.
That equates to Gus Malzahn staying.
That's why Gus is back next
He's
year.
going to be here for the remainder of his
I got
contract.
a real question for y'all though, because I'm saying you said we got good wide receiver talent, right? You think we're good, we're not great.
Yeah.
And we all agree that we are not getting the top tier, the top 5 wide receivers in the nation. Every recruiting cycle are going somewhere else.
Okay.
And a lot of that are the places around us that go into Georgia with very mediocre quarterback talent. They used to always go to LSU with almost no quarterback talent. They're definitely going to Alabama to put up stupid numbers because now Alabama can say, listen, this is just a tunnel to the league, and they can be telling the truth. And they're going to go to Clemson because they have been wide receiver really for longer than offenses have been this productive. With that being the case, why would you guys expect us to be competitive against these rivals, these teams, when we don't get even if we have good talent?
Let me ask you this.
Great talent.
Let me answer your question with a question.
Okay.
Is Ole Miss getting some of this elite talent?
Every now and then. Well,
are they getting more than we are?
I don't know. I honestly don't keep up with Ole Miss. I don't know until
Ole Miss has been in the
field.
top 15 to 20 in recruiting.
They've been comparable to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
What did they do? When they faced off, what are they doing offensively?
They put up over 30 points.
What are they doing? What are they doing offensively, B? I'm not saying win. What are they doing offensively with the talent they're getting?
Because the difference is not a talent gap.
Well, you know what?
It's
coaching
planning.
It's coaching. That's a non-Georgia, Alabama, Clemson example of some people who are getting talent comparable to us and are doing something with it. They just got a trash defense.
Okay. Wait. Time out. Who are they doing something against?
Alabama.
They put up a lot of points that one game.
Alabama.
That's the only game Alabama.
I answered your question.
Points. So listen, that was fool's gold to me, and the reason it's fool's gold is because
against Alabama,
the first 3 games of the season for everybody were very much an aberration.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'm buying that. Like we play the same. We know we're playing them at the end of the year, right? Like I just think if you just looked at their offensive execution versus Alabama, I don't care when in the year it was. It's arguably more
amazing
at the end of the year because just like you're saying, oh, they may be different defensively now. Well, they were different offensively then too as well. So like I just really thought that they accomplished a lot more offensively than we did, and we arguably have better talent. Right,
they play the exact same schedule as we do this year.
Right,
they did more with less.
How many points per game do you think Ole Miss is producing right now against the same schedule that we played?
38.
Because we defenses 41 points per game.
Yeah, we'd be undefeated if we were averaging 41 points a game. Right, like, and that's all I'm saying. Right, like, and
I'm not telling you that we are not. You know what though? I could counter that with. What did we do in 27? No, better case. What did we do last year against teams that were not Florida, LSU? Who else made us look really bad? Georgia. What did we do last year on offense against? We put up hella points against Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Alabama, because we can beat defenses that aren't good when we're rolling. We weren't even a great team last year. Bo Nix was terrible for most of the year. But we still put up points with the same wide receiver talent we have right now, right?
Yeah, but what I'm pointing back to is you're talking about a talent gap being the reason for the lack of production. I'm saying it's not strictly a talent gap.
I don't think so. Right. It's about getting.
I agree with Coach.
Ole Miss is getting more with less, and we got more than they do and are producing less.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that the tone. If you look at some of the comments that we had, A will put up one. That's just a second ago.
Back up, right?
Yeah, like it's not a coincidence, right? The QB seem to get worse under Gus. Brother, if you are still watching, let me tell you, that is something that we have belabored on this show for almost a year now, right? Quarterbacks don't develop, they don't grow under Gus. They just don't. He had a rule back in the day where he would not let his QBs work with private QB coaches. And they finally reversed course with Nick Marshall. And in his second year, he went to go work out with Michael Vick and his trainer, right? And all the only quarterbacks we've seen be successful in this system are quarterbacks that came in that were largely developed somewhere else, right? Cam was his own beast. He got better as the year went on. We only had him for 1 year. He went through a spring, right? He hit the field, and every week we found out what more of a monster. But that was just his raw talent. Nick Marshall, same thing. We didn't develop Nick Marshall as a thrower at Auburn. We just didn't. He was just a really good athlete that could happen to throw the ball well enough to play quarterback in the SEC. And then Jarrett Stidham was the most talented passer that we had come through. But again, the system didn't really know how to utilize his talents, in the way that Gus likes to pretend that this system is adaptable to the type of QBs that he decides to start. It just doesn't seem that way. And Stidham, for to not be in the mold of a Cam Newton or Nick Marshall, had a lot of success in his first year at Auburn, 10-3. I mean, he had a decent season. He made he gave us a lot of hope for the next year. So, it's a joke in NFL circles that we didn't ruin Stidham before he got to the NFL, right? I mean, he clearly had talent. He threw for the most yards of any rookie quarterback in a preseason his first year, as the heir apparent to Tom Brady. So, I don't know how many more years we can take talking about quarterbacks, because I hear Isaac's voice that he wants to see hope and light in Bo Nix, right? And I want to believe he's getting better too. I guess every time I think we've taken a step forward, we have a game, like today, and then I'm like, yeah, okay, like now
I still think Bo Nix played better today than he has played.
I don't disagree.
This is the best Bo Nix I've ever seen on the road against top talent. So, if we can see Bo Nix progress at this level in 1 year with Chad Morris under his tutelage, I have hope for our quarterbacks continuing to do that. My problem is who's developing the rest of the guys around them then, because Bo Nix obviously has taken leaps and bounds in one season under Chad Morris, but the wide receiver talent hasn't gotten any better. I'm sorry, Seth Williams should be a first round wide receiver talent just based upon his ability to compete. He is not going to be able to. He is at best a third rounder right now. At best.
Right.
Because of drops like today, because of his inability to stay healthy, because he's really just kind of and this is no diss to Seth Williams when I say this, he's kind of a one-trick pony. It's throw the ball up and he's going to go up there and get it. That does serve you well in the NFL, but you've got to be able to do other things for the team, like block well. He's not the greatest blocker. You have to be able to make those short, quick routes wins. He doesn't do that really well. He doesn't do a great job of adjusting to stuff when his quarterback is scrambling. He runs to a space. He doesn't really know how to feel out a deep. He is a guy who came in as talented as he was going to be and is still kind of at that talent level, because we haven't seen him do anything better than what he did his freshman year. He came in his freshman year making catches like that, right? Like, that's not an improvement for Seth Williams. That's him continuing to kind of just be the guy he was out of high school. That's not good enough to make you pop on the screen for NFL talent, and not unless you have blazing speed, which he does not have. So I don't know. This is a good question that somebody popped up in here. We're gonna leave after we answer this one. 3 to 5 year plan gets us to the playoffs and a legitimate shot. Is there something that we can see in 3 to 5 years that would need to happen?
B, what you got? Come on, B. Come on, B. What you got? Give it to us. What's the plan?
No, okay. So there's two things. One is what's best for us, and two is what's actually going to happen.
Okay.
One is
all right,
we
fair
actually
enough.
fire Gus Malzahn, and there's not going to be the cataclysmic record to do it. So Auburn's not going to do it because they're really conservative with making that type of move. So it's not going to. We would have to fire Gus, make a hire that is somebody who's proven that they can do more with less. and then we throw the full weight of donor support and fan support contribution wise to make sure that that next person gets the same type of recruiting ability that Gus has had, because Gus has had, and everybody says this, the best recruits in Auburn football history has been in the last 5 years. They have turned it around. We used to get twos and threes, but you had Tubbs making stars or NFL players out of twos and threes. Now we're getting threes, fours, a couple fives, and we're not looking more productive than the middle of Tuberville area. We're not wins and losses. We are not. So that would be the best thing for us to get rid of Gus, get somebody in who is going to be a sound
Terry Bowden. Bring back Terry. I'm just
no, don't do that. But somebody who has those connections, like, hey, I'm putting together a staff. I want to get the best coaches. I want to turn these guys into NFL players, and just give all that love that Gus got from 2010 and from that first year. He got so much love and security that he's been given this leash to be mediocre for a long time. We need to give that love and that appreciation monetarily to somebody else who is more a sound coach and not just a good offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I would say I don't even think it needs to be a 3 to 5 year plan, because the cupboards aren't bare, right? Like, you just need somebody that comes in here and knows what they're doing. They need a spring and they need a summer to change it, right? And then if they can get the right recruits in that first recruiting cycle going in, you can have a drastically different team in terms of production. Let's not forget, right? We coming off our worst year in 50. We went to the national title the very next year, right? Like, the talent is there. You just need somebody who knows what to do with it, right? We went 3-9 to 13-1, and like just literally a play short of a national title. You know, that's been pretty consistent in terms of the talent levels that we've had. So I don't think there needs to be a 3 to 5 year plan. I think if you get somebody in here at the end of the season, you give them a spring and a summer, it could be a 1 to 2 year plan, right?
Just got to get the right guy.
Right, but it all starts, to B's point, you know, his rant was about, we just need new coaching. We need guys who can actually take advantage of the talent that we do have. But I think it would be a very advantageous position from a talent standpoint for anybody who would take the job. Just go out and recruit a quarterback and put in a system that will attract wide receivers to come play with them, right? Urban Meyer decided that he was going to take Gus's job.
You know what? Urban Meyer is overrated too. What did he do in the last 4 years at Ohio State, getting the top tier talent in the entire region? He got blown out by Clemson in the playoff.
Yeah, but they were in the conversation every year, which is more like
conversation.
He won a championship. He won a championship.
And he won a championship.
Won with a stupid amount of talent and
still won.
Third string quarterback. You know what? Gus Malzahn has something in common with Urban Meyer.
No, they don't.
Stick with quarterbacks who are ineffective. And the only reason they've ever been effective, the only way that, because Cardale Jones wasn't even a good quarterback. He was serviceable, but he forced Urban Meyer to abandon what he wanted to do, which is try to do too much with the quarterback. And then he had to just like, listen, man, you just gonna run this or throw this long. That's all he did. Ezekiel Elliott was back there running the ball and killing everybody. Their defense was they shut out Wisconsin 59-0 in the championship game.
Cardale Jones was the third string quarterback, though.
I'm saying that as a compliment. It forced, the same way Nick Marshall was the only viable quarterback option we had in 2013. It forced Gus to do the one thing we could do well. And what do you know? We can do it. Ever since then, he's had this idea in his head that he can turn us into the 89 49ers or some combination of that and a West Coast offense that hadn't been invented yet, and do all these miraculous things with Joe Blows. We cannot. Your offense isn't that good. You are not that smart. You get extremely dynamic talent at 3 or 4 positions, and then you can do some of the things you want to do, but it will be effective. He's his own worst enemy. And in the same way, Cardale Jones forced Urban Meyer to simplify the game plan, and all they had really available to them was the thing that they did best.
I'm sorry. I'm lost in the Cardale Jones situation.
I lost your point too.
Yeah. Like listen, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Like, they had a guy he was their third option, so he essentially started the Big Ten championship game and then the playoff game. But they lost 3 quarterbacks that season, and he was the third option.
Yes.
So he really only played like 2.5 games in his college career.
Yes.
And national, right? Like, so like, that's why I'm lost on the Cardale Jones thing. It was not like there was some big. I mean, he was the third strike. He didn't really have a choice, right?
Right. What I'm saying about Urban and Cardale in this case is Urban Meyer did Gus Malzahn at one point. I thought he was always going to do more with less, and that has turned out not to be the case. He's not that type of coach. Urban Meyer, since he won those championships at Florida, he's gotten more. He has never wanted for talent since he got to Ohio State and his last few years at Florida. He won the national championship in 2014, and I think he got out of his own way only because he didn't have a choice but to simplify what his offense did because he had a third string quarterback. I think that was to his advantage. I don't think it was a coaching a stroke of genius because he didn't have a choice. He didn't say, you know what, Cardale Jones is who's going to win us. There's JT Barrett. You sit down. He didn't do that. The next year when he had to choose between both, they blew it. They lost to a terrible Michigan State team that got run out of the building in the playoff against Alabama. Urban Meyer, and since then he went back to the playoff against Clemson and got 30-0, 30-0, right? Wasn't that score in that game when Ohio State played Clemson?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't care about them.
Oh yeah. It was a beatdown. Yeah, it was beatdown.
I will agree somewhat is that I think if I were going to pick a coach, like, so if we're gonna give like a hierarchy of like where coaches are in their ability to really coach, Urban Meyer I still think is above Gus Malzahn in that hierarchy. Now I will say that Ryan Day is probably better than Urban Meyer is with early returns because Urban Meyer's been doing this at a couple of different programs. He did it at Utah. He did it at Florida. Like, he has taken programs from the brink of obscurity into the national conversation consistently. So he at least knows how to recruit really good talent and put those talented people in a position to play well and play good football. And those programs, Ryan Day is the only one who was able to take that program and continue it. Everybody else after Urban Meyer, they were a stink fest. Like, it just was terrible after he left. I'm going to have to disagree that he's equivalent to Gus Malzahn because I don't think that if Gus Malzahn leaves, Auburn's program tanks unless they hire, I don't know who they could hire that would be worse than Gus.
Cody.
It's just really going to be, they could hire Cody Burns.
You said you couldn't think of no one. I just
Cody.
I know, man.
Cody.
Here's a question for you, B. Will.
No, because we have Gus Malzahn.
Well, that was to your point about Urban Meyer and Gus Malzahn.
I know.
Being equivalent.
When I say that, I'm
right.
Somebody who's a big name, and it's just like somebody was whispering right before Gus extended in the 2017 season. Somebody was saying that there were whispers about Bob Stoops, and I was thinking, what has Bob Stoops won in 20 years? Nothing. He gets his choice of talent at Oklahoma. Every year he was there, he got whoever he wanted. Defensively, they had talent at Oklahoma. So they lost to Florida. They lost to who else did they lose to? I don't know. They lost to lots of people. Oklahoma won their conference frequently, but they never won the big game. I don't want a coach who is getting the choice of talent that they want and still can't win it. That's not what I want. If you're going to get all the players you want, then you got to come down with some results. Look what Dabo's doing. He's a weirdo, but look, Dabo gets the talent. Dabo is winning games. He is winning games every year, and if he doesn't win it that year, he wins it the next year. That is.
He is weird.
He is producing with the talent. Bama gets the talent, they're producing. Georgia, I don't want Kirby Smart. He is getting the talent. He got all the way to a national title game and lost it like literally in epic fashion. Yes, under some strange. And I think anybody can, but why can't you get back? You lost twice now. He lost to Bama in the SEC ship. He lost to LSU in the SEC.
How many years has he been there?
This will be first was 2016 when we looked.
Is this year 4 for him?
Yeah.
No, this is 5. It's 5. They were like 7.
They got better problems than we.
Then they went into the
Facts.
All right.
I still think that as far as head coaches go, he's not really that great. He's Kirby Smart again.
Defensively.
It's kind of difficult for me to talk about anybody's coaches as not being good when we have the guy that we have. So it's like it's almost
We don't
like
want our coach. It's
like
okay.
like what do you have to talk about? Like, but I mean, I think that Kirby Smart, he's not his last name, right? So he's a good offensive coach, but he's not his last name. But he is what he is. He's a decent coach. He's great at recruiting. He's good at defensive strategy, but offensively, he has not been able to find his complement, and that's probably going to be his undoing at Georgia. Is he hasn't been able to find someone who can be his complement on the offensive side of the ball.
Right.
Anyway, we have been on this for entirely too long. We still have it doesn't feel like it again because the Iron Bowl is typically the last game of the season, but we still have 2 whole weeks of football left to play, and we have another big matchup next week against Texas A&M, against Jimbo Fisher and Brian Wilson's favorite coach that has ever graced the SEC.
Can't wait.
Looking forward. We are looking forward to talk about that.
If we're still down left and right tackle and Tank ain't 100%, then I mean of course that changes what I think.
It definitely does. It definitely does. I mean, so it was clear though that one of our tackles was at least serviceable today. So maybe another week of him,
he started. He didn't play the second half though.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like he was at least serviceable today. He couldn't play an entire game, but maybe another week of getting healthy, he'll be back and ready to play. Tank had a little bit of a burst late in the game, so maybe another week of him getting healthy if he didn't re-injure anything this week, or we actually see Mark Anthony Richards. Whatever,
Right.
It doesn't matter. We have a lot to talk about on Wednesday coming up against Texas A&M. If you haven't already, click like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you know when we are going live. The War Report on Twitter and Instagram. We'll be live tweeting during games, all that good stuff. We'll figure out a player of the game somehow, I guess, and get that out there onto you guys on Instagram. TW Report is on TikTok. That is it, man. We are going to get out of here until Wednesday when we are back at you, or we have some other news between now and then. It's always War Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.